Hey, how's it going? Oh my goodness. I am congested. I think it's allergies. I'm just not real sure. Anyway, I wanted to talk about yesterday. And I wanted to talk about yesterday, but I fell asleep. So I'm going to do it today. The thing about yesterday that was so interesting was that I was up about this time of day, and it's, the other phone's in the other room. It's about 6 a.m. And so at about this time yesterday, I was actually outside riding around. I have a little route that I take in the neighborhood on my bike, and I was out there doing that because you never know if it's actually going to be hot in the afternoon where I live, but I didn't want to take any chances because when it is hot, it's usually not that hot. Like, it is really summer here. There is a difference. And so you just want to get out early in case it's like too hot later, you know. And while I was out there, it's like a pretty regular route, but you know, I try to vary it here and there. But the thing is usually I'll see one, maybe two cats while I'm out. I saw like 7, that's highly unusual. And they all happened to be looking at me when I was coming, I guess, because I ride with headphones on, listening to music. It's not like too loud to hear traffic in that, but it could be that I've just become accustomed to the sound of the basket that's on this bike, because it's pretty rattly. And then my seat also makes noises, so it could have been that they were just looking at the sound of me coming, and then I always speak to them. I talk to the dogs too, but there was the, usual number of those, and they're usually behind a fence, so the cats in the neighborhood can just go walking around. So anyway, I'm riding and I'm noticing, wow, that's a lot of cats, and they were all like sitting there looking at me, which can be unsettling if you're not a cat person. But it was different enough that I noticed. And then I came in the house, and the first thing that popped up in my YouTube feed was creepy stories. I don't know. I think that's the name of the channel. It may not be, but it's creepy something. And it was cat councils, and I was like, cat councils? I'll have to check that out. And it was about, I should link it. Let me make a note and see if I can remember, because actually notes are not that great at helping me remember to do stuff. We'll try. Link cat councils. So anyway, it was about this unusual phenomena that people have reported, and then they had a bunch of the reports, reenacted, like Unsolved Mystery style. They do that. Those reenactments, a lot of shows do it, but they had the people talking about their experiences and just coming upon these scenes of like either a half circle or a full circle of like domestic cats. And I mean, apparently that was how they knew, or they knew they were domestic because they had collars. Didn't say if there were strays mixed in. I can't imagine that there wouldn't have been. But all of the cats in the circle and the semicircle are focused on another cat, a single cat, that seems to be leading some sort of discussion or meeting or something, and it's typically a much larger cat, like unusually large. I have not had this experience. I would love to. Sounds amazing, but like for the people that don't like barge in and start calling cats, like some of the reports were of people seeing their own cat in these weird, like, situations that look like the cats are having a little meeting. And, and there's always people that make jokes about cats plotting to take over the world and all of that. Yeah, they're definitely probably having a meeting. So anyway, all of the different people, like, one little girl went to call her cat inside for the night, and the cat didn't come, so she went looking, and then came upon, like, a very large cat sitting at the center of the neighborhood cats, and they were recognizable because they had collars, and they were the neighborhood cats. And so the little girl goes up and is, like, calling and calling and calling, and none of the cats are responding, like, at all. Like, no twitching of the ears, no turning around. They're just focused on this one cat in the center, who I think in this particular telling, this cat had its back to her, and finally, after calling a bunch of times, and if I remember correctly, coming closer to the circle, the big cat turned around and just looked at her. And again, if you're not like a cat person, it may not seem like that's like any kind of a deal, but they have a way of looking at you all the time, all kinds of ways where something is being conveyed, like they're giving you a look. So the big cat, like the cat leader, the cat judge or whatever, turned around and looked at this girl for a significant few seconds, and all of the cats just dispersed. Like when he turned around again, they dispersed. And so it was like, thanks for like totally breaking up the meeting. Like, we can't have you here now. And then, like, never saw the big cat again, or anything like that. And then adults in various situations, like, they're testimonials, basically. And so, no one came to any harm. It's just, like, a weird thing. So here's my theory. I dropped some ice on the floor, and I keep stepping in it. You know how cats are supposed to be like spiritual little beings? And again, if you're a cat person, you're probably going to be aware of like or even if you're not a cat person, but of their significance in like Egypt, for example, or as like witches' familiars or something like that. But in both of those cases, the cats are like always around for like whatever is happening. And then there's I guess lore around cats that they can see to the other side, and we know that they will spend significant amounts of time with their attention on something, and you look where they're looking and you don't really see anything. And I've always called that the cat, they're looking at the cat ghosts, because like a camera, some cameras, they can see into all these other, like the infrared or whatever, and see what we can't see with our unassisted eyes. So there's like all this mystique around cats, and in like the metaphysical, spiritual community, cats have an active role in those areas, like of spirituality, and that would go back to and correspond with like their significance in Egypt, or like why they would be around witches. And it's not like the cats are evil or even the witches, it's just that cats are drawn to people, and some people have a deeper level of communication with them. And I know that like I wanted to meditate before I started doing this, but I also know that every time I go try to do it and try to get centered and, well, I'll just leave it at that. Like, try to get centered and, like, meditate. That damn cat will always, like, hear it, feel it, that I'm doing that. Like, I'll get right in the zone, and then all of a sudden, he's there doing something to just yank me right out of it. So he's unusual that way. My other cats usually just, like, if they came around at all, they just sat down and let me get on with it. They didn't have to announce their presence. This cat does. And I can go back to it if I want, but it's kind of like, once he's broken the spell in a way, it's hard to get it back. And then he doesn't just, like, make the one, hi, I'm here, let me interrupt you, totally knock you off track. He'll just keep doing it over and over. Like, he's like, I want to say immature with his role in the whole cat meditation process. So I didn't go do it. I just did a little something right here, and he thankfully stayed away, just so I could get into a proper state of mind to do this. So yeah, I don't know, like that about the cats yesterday. And then, let's see, I took some notes. And then, like, other stuff happened. This was a little later, and I was watching this movie that I've wanted to see for a long time, and I just finally located where it was for free and watched it. And it's called Dark City. It's a sci-fi. And so, when I was, finding where to watch it yesterday online, I found it on Tubi, and there were these descriptions about it along the way that were comparing it to The Matrix in a lot of ways, but I was thinking it was a lot like, well, here, let me just read here my notes. So, it came out in 1998, and it stars Rufus Sewell, Kiefer Sutherland, William Hurt, and Jennifer Connelly, and a bunch of other people. And so here's my notes. Shadowy group, Archons, capable of stealing memories of people they enthrall and manipulate to their own ends. They keep the population guessing by altering reality so often people can no longer tell what's real. One person, the Jesus analog, breaks free. Wait, I don't know if analog is right. Well, I liken this person to like a Jesus or a Christ figure. One person breaks free of the illusion and Force discovers, and by that I mean just like the combination of events in their life kind of like forces them, the way stress often forces us to more, or like fear will push us beyond our normal limits. So that's what I mean. So Force discovers he can exert his own will, consciousness, and also affect reality. Resist the sleepwalking confusion. He begins to regain his memory of who he really is, which is a term you will hear a lot on this channel and a lot of other channels talking about the spiritual, metaphysical stuff. He wins the fight to survive and shatters the fake reality, allowing him to save/awaken the population to their own memory. So, and that would be us here and now in this reality, this real reality, which is not to say that on some level this Dark City reality wasn't one. It was in somebody's head, like somebody thought of it and spun off this whole story, and that's supposed to create a reality all its own. Like maybe that came in the form of the movie, or maybe it's another dimension somewhere. Unclear at this moment. But anyway, So yeah, he saves slash awakens the population, as did Jesus. Remember in the story, if you know the story, and awakens them us to their own reality, or to their own memory of reality and who they really are. So it's like this awakening story, basically, which is something like humanity has been going through pretty much our entire existence, but it's taken like an accumulation of the years and lives and like lived out, like karma's lived out, birth blueprints. Like I've talked about how that pre-birth blueprint thing is so intricate. I mean, just think of it as like everybody having one, and then everybody, in order to create that blueprint, had to get together with a whole heck of a lot of people to plot out the life and their own like parts that they're going to play in it. And then each one of those people has the same thing, so it's like it's fractal, actually. It's just never ending, spinning out, you know, more amplification of this event person idea. Like okay, so I just thought like that this happens all the time. I'll be watching something and there'll be layers or levels of whatever this so-called science fiction or whatever the genre that you're watching, that you're going to see some parallel to your life. And I love that it can be something from like silent, well, I don't know about silent movies. I'd really have to watch more of them with that sort of focus, because I have seen plenty, but I was not thinking of them in these terms. Except maybe like Charlie Chaplin joking about Hitler, like that was like a real time thing. But a lot of times I'll be watching or reading something and it's like that's like life in this way. That's what's happening right now in real life. It happens all the time. But Dark City just, wow, that played out so perfectly as a little tiny, you know, Christ the Awakener story, which has been playing out since his time, pretty much, just to give you an idea of the scope of that. So, okay, I had pulled some cards, and I pulled one from why can't I ever remember the name of this deck? It's new. That doesn't matter. I can't remember the ones I've had for a while. The Body Oracle. And when I pulled that card, I was like, Trump is on my mind. He's in the news. He's kind of on everyone's mind, whether you want him or not. Oh, that reminds me. Please take a look at my signs, and especially the entertainment portion. Okay, so from the Body Oracle deck, I pulled the hand. That is the organ in question. And I'm going to tell you what it says on the card, and then I'm going to give you my interpretation. So, the subtitle is Create, and it reads, Life is a creative practice. Well, why did it give me the hand when I specifically asked which organ is troubling Trump the most? And it came out hand. And that could be because of the recent sort of too revealing photographs of his hands lately, where I didn't know, because I don't really watch him. I can't listen to his voice for very long, and so I don't watch coverage of him There's plenty of other people talking about it. My God, it's just endless. So I was not keeping track of what his hands were doing. And I guess they've been looking bruised and stuff like that. And then also, that hasn't really been like the focus of what the press is talking about. And so, or at least not the press that I've been looking at, but I don't have television, so that might be the difference. And until recently, I did see a lot of coverage about his hands where he had a big black bruise on his hand, and I associate that with when my mom was dying of cancer, which meant, like, in her case, her insides were, like, in her doctor's words, her body was saturated with cancer. So cancer is not a growth thing. It is the opposite. It is all of the stuff switching off while you're still trying to use it. And that, it's like leaving a steak on a hot sidewalk. That's what happens to the inside of your body, that process. It's not a growth process. So, in my mom's case, she would go for the chemo, and it was very difficult for the doctors to find veins on her. And she came back, she looked like a drug addict, really. She looked like the people that I was hanging out with on the rock scene. Because they'd try everywhere, so she'd just be bruised, like, all up her whole arm. And they'd finally usually end up on her hand. And then, you know, like, all of the tries would just, she bruised so easily. It was not, I mean, I'm kind of laughing now, but it wasn't funny. It makes you feel sad and terrible about your parent or loved one, that they're in that condition, because you know it's not right. Like, you know, down to your bones, like, you just... So anyway, I was familiar with that particular type of bruising, and then he tried to put makeup over it, which he's already got so many skin tones going on any given day. And everyone's scrutinizing him. So, but here's what I did notice about him. His face and his skin, that alone tells you a lot about his health. And then, like, the rest of his body, like, we've all become amateur physicians. So, his hand has been talked about a lot lately. And then I looked up the spiritual... I don't have that phone in here. Let me see if it's charged yet. Be right back. So I looked up some things about the hand. And let me go back, because I went to a bunch of different screens. So, spiritual meaning of hand. This is Bible meanings. The significance of hand is power. For example, to put forth his hand and take the dove and bring her into himself is to apply and attribute to himself the truth meant by the dove. That by hand is signified power, also authority, and the derivative self-confidence is evident from many passages in the Word. The Word, I believe, is... oh shoot, they said it on here. It's the Bible, like what's written, the Scripture. So that's one thing. And I just thought the points that it brought up, gee, I feel like they apply to Trump. Well, his concept of himself, and then what he's got other people to believe. Okay, here's more. Because hands signify powers, man's evils and falsities are continually called in the Word the works of his hands. And then recently he used a term that I used recently in something that I wrote and posted publicly about power being in the hands of those with the power being controlled by those with their hands on the levers. And then he was talking about in one of his speeches about his hands being on all of the levers, and I was like, ugh. Anyway, there was one more. It was like the last one. I don't remember what I was looking at being that long, so that's probably not it. The hand is signified power. It is now plainly manifest from these passages. Okay, I didn't read the passage. That's not the part. Because what I wanted to say was self-contained. And there's a lot of... I don't know if you've ever read the Bible, but there's like a lot of sections and subsections. Well, it talks about the power and the hand power being used in a positive way, but mainly it's about abuses of power using the hand and the levers and such. So that's all hand stuff. And then I have some cards that I pulled, and here's the first card, and it is the Regent Diamond. The Regent, that's like king, right? He certainly wants to be our king. He's acting like he is the king. We don't have that system. I think that's like a hereditary thing, royalty. And they're not part of that, the Trumps, unless you're talking crime royalty. Okay, so the subtitle on this card is arrogance. Oh, the cleverness. That's, I mean, in my opinion, that's, whoa. In my opinion, that's pretty good, a pretty good description of him. Oh, the cleverness of me. That makes me think of him trying to ascribe some sort of cleverness or genius to himself because his uncle went to MIT. You know, university accreditation is not hereditary, you weirdo. Okay, so the next card I pulled was Hematite. Devil. Bad uses of the hand. Devil is the subtitle, and the card reads, hell is empty and all the devils are here. You know, you could, like, apply that to a lot of places in reality right now because of the whole people just giving in to their worst impulses and taking advantage and abusing power and people. They think it's going well, but I don't think it is. I think that's like very delusion. There's something about being in like your own bubble. And this is something particularly, I think, that Trump does, and is a coping skill that he's developed for himself, where he's taken all of this advice and made his own sort of creed, and it's like I don't apologize, I'm never wrong, and he's like Mr. Superlative. Everything is the best, better than anyone has ever seen or thought of, like... He's always pushing that, and that's an illusion too, because a lot of times he's being dishonest about what he's talking about, or completely making stuff up out of whole cloth. And that's great if you're not like the president of a country. Anyway, a little side note there. So the next card is pt.1. I'm not real sure how that's pronounced, but that's phonetic. And it's beautiful, though. It kind of looks like it hardened in action. You know, like it looks like it's still under heat. I mean, that looks like lava. And that looks kind of burnt. I don't know, it's just a thought. Anyway, the subtitle is Direction. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. That's interesting. And so what I'm thinking of is sort of the opposite of all this hot lava. And it's of how a liquid is very, like water is very determined. Water is going to get to wherever it wants to go, regardless of other forces, because it could be liquid, it could be ice, it could be steam, you know? Like, I don't think it can be trapped forever. Eventually it's going to make its way out in some way, shape, or form, because it has no clock. It doesn't care about how long something takes. Like, I think that whole sentence, how long something takes, is not a thing for water. Time, I don't think, is a thing for water. Water is just like, I'm here, and eventually I'm going to expand, or the container is going to break down, and everything is going to change, and stuff's going to go where it wants to go, or where it needs to go. And I don't know, that's what this made me think of. Like, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. Like, I don't know why it came as like such a slow process, but when there's a will, there's a way, you know? Okay, so I mean, I guess in terms of Trump and what he represents, you know, like 2025 and the long plan of the Republicans, or just the right, like there's always been a certain caste amongst people that are like, we're keeping the good information and the good food and the good land, and like, you know, and then everything else that's left over, if it's any good, we'll sell it to you, and if it's no good, good luck go digging it up out of the ground with your bare hands, or out of the dump, or whatever. Like, there's always been this willingness on the part of some people to collect the ones they like around themselves or are useful, and then everything and everybody else can just be discarded. And it's weird that they've lasted so long with such a short-sighted overview, but, you know, that's what happened. But I think that's like just breaking down. I mean, it kind of feels like, or I think it looks like stuff is breaking down, which in a way it is, but sometimes you gotta have like old, rotten, fallen apart stuff, or no longer functional stuff, just cleared out of the way. Like, things become obsolete and we abandon them, but then the edifice is still there, or like the habit of the way is still there, and we're reluctant to change. We're like, but what if it's not this? But what if this sucks, and it's time to see what if? And, you know, you just take your chances. You can't, like, put the brakes on reality. I know there's been a lot of attempts to, but like the water that's trapped somewhere, eventually it's gonna stop working. The containment is no longer gonna contain. So, okay, the next card is civilized. I don't know. I like it though. It's like it's like an alien sky. It's not in motion, but it suggests motion. It's very intriguing, and I like the colors of it. So the subtitle is Star. I have loved the stars too fondly to be fearful of the night. Well, night ends. Eventually, the sun star comes up and throws a new light on everything. It's interesting that I'm reading, I have loved the stars too fondly to be fearful of the night. And I'm thinking of, like, being on a star. I don't know if it's me being on this star, but being on a star in the midst of it changing. Like, I guess geological processes happening that are, like, shaping the atmosphere and what's going to grow on it. Like a star being born, I guess, is what I'm feeling like. And it's like, it wouldn't be safe for this me to just be there, sitting on, like, my chair in the middle of, like, a star becoming. Like, that seems beyond explosive, but, it's a thing that just is. It just happens, and it's a metaphor, obviously, but so a metaphor for being, like, in the middle of constant clashing, growing change, and not being unaffected. Like, look at this swirl. Like I said, it looks like, to me, I know that it's not, but it looks as if it's in motion, or it's been caught in motion. And all of the different colors are like the chemical processes and the gravitic processes and magnetic and pressures happening that shape a star. And, I mean... I was going to say think of a fetus, but actually what I thought of was, I don't know if you've ever seen newborn baby poop. When my sister brought her baby home, I think the baby was a couple of weeks old, and my sister asked me to change the diaper. So I was like 16, 17 at this time. And when I opened up the baby's diaper, I was very surprised. There was poop in there, and it was, in most ways, looked like poop, except for the color. The color was like, I swear to God, it looked like dinner mints. It was like pink, green. If you don't know what a dinner mint is, it's like this chalky, sweet, blandly sweet thing that I guess they used to give out at the end of meals at restaurants. Something they used to do when I was young. And they're not great. They're not good candy. But anyway, I opened up this diaper and the little poops were that color, and I was freaked out. I was like, is this normal? Is she okay? I didn't know. But it's like, all of the stuff that's going on in an infant or in the womb is all of these things, chemicals, and, wow, I can't describe this good. But the building blocks of a human being that have materialized, like, she got real. She became real, the baby did. And I don't know how my sister really knew this, since it was her first kid, and she was also my age. I assume her mom talked to her about it, or the hospital, but your poop doesn't